I stole to the door of Blickling Hall on the 19th night of a moonlit May, and met the ghost of Anne Boleyn, shining bright as day. 6 headless horses drew her coach, a haunted headless coachman drove. Give them the head, she laughed, then turned on me a look of love. I lost my heart in the darkest chase, on the dying fall of a hunting horn. I lost my head for the rose of the world, and the rose withered on the thorn. A death-white moon with a raven head, and a smile like a blossom of lovely May. I sold my heart for a worldly crown, and I'll take your breath away. I'm not your true Thomas, I cried in dread, and her witch head turned in its rotting shroud. Ah, you've named the angel who guards my grave, and she hid her moon face in a cloud. I lost your heart in the darkest chase, on the dying fall of a hunting horn. I lost my head for the rose of the world, and the rose withered on the thorn.
The Queen Bee must provide an heir to the colony in earnest, and lead the dance of the hive in the game of courtly love. Like the king, I flirt with everyone, but in earnest, I am faithful. Unlike the king.
Good evening. I died in 1542 of a violent fever, but fret ye not, 'tis no longer contagious. My name is Sir Thomas Wyatt. I am a courtier of King Henry VIII, ambassador, soldier, poet, sportsman, Renaissance man. And like any Renaissance man, I'm also a bit of an actor. And presently I shall be playing the part of a 21st century literary critic, scholar and authority on the work of Sir Thomas Wyatt, named Gareth Calway. Good evening.
Good evening.
Sir Thomas Wyatt was educated at St John College, Cambridge, formerly accompanied Henry VIII and his mistress Anne Boleyn to France. Wyatt was Anne's ex-lover, awkward, and after successful missions on Henry's behalf abroad, knighted. He was then imprisoned in the Tower of London, along with Anne, released, promoted to French ambassador, imprisoned in the Tower of London again, royally pardoned, and then died. Serving King Henry VIII was a tricky business. As a fashionable man of letters, Wyatt introduced artful Italian and French literary forms like the sonetto and the rondeau into English poetry, managing to imitate all that crazy continental rhyming in an English rich on feeling but relatively skint on rhyme words. But he is no ivory tower artist, unless you mean the tower. He lived on the edge. There is strong wine in those finely made bottles. His most famous sonnet, Whoso List to Hunt, has undercover allusions to Anne. For example, a hind, or female deer, with her diamond collar inscribed, Nole me tangera. Do not touch me, for Caesar's I am. Nole me tangera. Words originally used by Christ to Mary Magdalene on his resurrection, then quoted by the Caesars to keep poachers off their deer. He later witnessed at close quarters the brutal beheadings of Anne and of his own all-powerful protector, Thomas Cromwell. This gave his fashionable Renaissance viewpoint, expressed in one poem as circa regna tonat. What goes up must come down, and usually without its head. A heartbreak reality. But as Yeats has it, only an aching heart conceives a changeless work of art. All of this is borne out in Wyatt's masterpiece of rhyme royal, They Flee From Me. It isn't just one of the sexiest poems of the Tudor age, and it wrote quite a few. It also captures that moment when the starstruck groupie suddenly realises you're nobody compared to the guy she's just spotted over your shoulder. In my case, it was talking backstage to the rock chick wife of the lead singer of the Kaiser Chiefs when I was filming the Sunday Night Project, lapping up her agog-goggling until someone sent my 5 minutes of fame crashing to the cutting room floor. But life's too short to be bitter. In Wyatt's case, it was when Anne Boleyn's pretty Protestant head, acting as head of the Boleyn family, was turned by the attentions of a much bigger codpiece, a rhyme royal indeed. They flee from me. They flee from me that sometime did me seek, with naked foot stalking in my chamber. I have seen them gentle, tame, and meek, that now are wild and do not remember that sometime they put themselves in danger to take bread at my hand. And now they range, busily seeking with a continual change. Thanked be fortune, it hath been otherwise, 20 times better, but once in special, in thin array, after a pleasant guise, when her loose gown from her shoulders did fall, and she me caught in her arms long and small, therewithal sweetly did me kiss, and softly said, Dear heart, how like you this? It was no dream. I lay broad waking, but all is turned thorough my gentleness into a strange fashion of forsaking, and I have leave to go of her goodness. And she also to use new-fangleness. But since that I so kindly am served, I would fain know what she hath deserved.
You are looking at the largest in England, whatever she may have said to her ladies of the bedchamber. The first thing I learned was never trust a courtier. They didn't announce the death of my father for 2 days. Hyper-cautious Henry VIII is dead. Long live the courtiers consolidating their positions. I couldn't even put my name to royal gifts or letters patent without the counter-signature of my father's minders, back-watching ministers like Sir Henry Wyatt, feathering his own nest. Until Wolsey freed me from all such constraints, in the days when he served his king before his God. My skinflint father united the bloodlines of York and Lancaster in marriage after centuries of blood and fire, and married the new house of Tudor to the old might of Spain twice. The Pope ruled that my brother, the real King Arthur who never was, died before he mounted Catherine's bed. Dad guarded my inheritance and filled the royal coffers with his mean hands at a price. I grew up overprotected, cautious, wary. But they're all wary of me now.
Rose, rose, rose red, shall I ever see thee wed? I marry that thou wilt. Shall I ever see thee wed? I marry that thou wilt. Shall I ever see dead.
When thou art dead.
What Dad grabbed at Bosworth wasn't the glorious England of Henry V. It was a farmyard stuck in the Middle Ages, deserted, backwards, inwards, a dunghill on the doorstep of France, still recovering from the Black Death some 100 years slower than the rest of Europe. Edward III ruled 5 million people. Richard II, 25 years of Black Death later, half that. Now, after 25 years of me, everything's soaring. Population, rents, prices, land acquisitions, commerce, enclosures, evictions, consumables at 231%. Uprooted villages flood the towns and wages fall. But my people, the landowners, the commercial farmers, the merchants, the nobility, the gentry, the land grabbers, making it yield, all rich and getting richer. We'll be conquering Europe again soon like the knights of old. Meanwhile, my Renaissance men, handsome soldier scholars, strutting in Italy and France, sing Italian sonnets to my Tudor rose, and their hearts out to ladies they can't have. Hands off, Master Wyatt, she's mine.
Whoso list to hunt, I know where is an hind. But as for me, alas, I may no more. The vain travail hath wearied me so sore, I am the last of those that cometh behind. Yet may I by no means my wearied mind draw from the deer, but as she draws afore, fainting, I follow. I leave off therefore, since in a net I seek to hold the wind. Who list her hunt, I put him out of doubt that he as I will spend his time in vain. For graven in diamonds, in letters plain, there is written her fair neck round about. Nole me tangera, for Caesar's I am, and wild for to hold, though I seem tame.
The foundation stone of the Protestant Church at the balls of King Henry VIII. Village drummer Dutchman. Erasmus was writing his Greek and Latin New Testaments at Cambridge when I was a young king dancing Spanish steps on the graves of my father's courtiers. John Colet was attacking monks, priests, superstition, even the papacy. Years before I needed to ditch Catherine. Sir Thomas More was sweet reasoning his utopia long before he put his conscience before our friendship. The Renaissance had come to England, closely followed by Luther's Reformation, not mine. My papal legate Wolsey was burning books and imprisoning men, albeit too late. But he couldn't imprison the ideas and balked at burning the heretics who spread them. Luther gave men's hatred of papal monarchy and church power adultery. I did it without the doctrine. And Circle brought Lutheranism to my court. But it wasn't a Bible, I know it was. Luther said that priests should abandon their concubines and marry. Their balls, not mine. Catherine bore me 5 children. 18 years serving the royal codpiece and beyond it. Only Mary survived. Well, king's got to protect his dynasty. Enter the lovely Boleyn with her boy.
Alas, my love, you do me wrong, to cast me off discourteously. And I have loved you so long, delighting in your company. Green sleeves was all my joy, green sleeves was my delight. Green sleeves was my heart of gold, and who but my lady green sleeves? My men were clothed all in green, and they did ever wait on thee. All this was gallant to be seen, and yet thou wouldst not love me. Green sleeves was all my joy, green sleeves was my delight. Green sleeves was my heart of gold, and who but my lady green sleeves?
For to love her, for her looks lovely, my heart was set in thought, right firmly, trusting in truth to have had redress. But she hath given me leave, full honestly. Yet do I not rejoice it greatly, for on my faith I love too surely, and reason will that I do cease for to love her. Since that in love the pain's been deadly, methinks that I will readily return me to my first address. For at this time too great is the press, and perils appear too abundantly for to love her.
Parla più piano e nessuno sentirà. Il nostro amore lo viviamo, io e te. Nessuno sa la verità, neppure il cielo che ci guarda da lassù insieme a te. Io resterò, amore mio, sempre così. Parla più piano, vieni più vicino a me. Voglio sentire gli occhi miei dentro di te. Nessuno sa la verità. Un gran amore e me più grande esisterà. Was it love? Was it ever love? That witchcraft in her eyes, a song in my heart, surely yes. A young woman's open-eyed admiration behind a queen's aging back. It's a magic mightier than kings. It turns the world around. But true love's kind does not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, becomes neither a sounding brass nor a tinkling cymbal. The Pope would have to challenge his own authority to unpermit my marriage to Catherine. This put me with the radicals, who said that popes could be fallible. Lucius, the legendary first Christian king of England, was also its vicar. Give the king thy judgment, O God. Why should I kneel to the Bishop of Rome to free me from the daughter of Spain? I too, my own man, in my own empire, head of my own church. I needed a papal legate like I needed a knife in the neck. And then Sir Thomas More also let me down. So, I convened the most powerful law-making parliament in English history, as long as it did my will. The Act of Annals, the Act of Appeals, the first Act of Succession, the Act of Supremacy, the Treason Act, farewell, Sir Thomas, the Act against the authority of the Pope. After centuries of nothing much, a completed revolution in 6 acts in 4 years. My precedents were King David, King Solomon, Emperor Constantine, Emperor Justinian, all heads of state and church. God ordained it. Parliament belatedly recognised it. The bishops nodded it through, cowed by taxes and threats, and fear of the alternative, permanent subordination to Parliament. I mean, what was it? Temporary squabble between king and pope. Not worth being burned for. After all, wasn't I more Catholic than most of Northern Europe? A defender of the faith. But what if the heirs to my English church were Protestant? Like the Book of Jubilee. Think about it. Most of them didn't at the time.
Three blind mice. See how they run. See how they run. They all ran after the farmer's wife. She cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a thing in your life? 3 blind mice. 3 blind mice. See how they run. They all ran after the farmer's wife. She cut off the tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a thing in your life? 3 blind mice. 3 blind mice. When Henry VIII divorced Catherine of Aragon, her daughter Mary was demoted from princess and court to lady and country exile, hence farmer's wife. During the reign of Henry's Puritan heir, Edward VI, England's first Protestant king, Catholic priests were hunted to death, and the ultra-Protestant Cranmer and his bishops Latimer and Ridley pursued policies vindictive to Mary. They all ran after the farmer's wife. Finally, Catholic Mary succeeded, and her reign of counter-terror earned her another nickname, Bloody Mary. Wealthy Protestants fled the country in droves, but 300 were burned at the stake, notably Cranmer, Latimer and Ridley, who also endured blinding and torture. She cut off their tails with a carving knife. And the Oxford crowd watched. Did you ever see such a thing in your life?
3 blind mice, 3 blind mice.
3
See how they
blind mice,
run,
3
see how
blind
they run.
mice.
They
See
all ran
how
after the
they
farmer's wife who cut off their
See
tails
how
with
they
a
run.
carving knife. Did
They
you
all
ever
ran
see
after
such a
the
thing in your
farmer's
life?
wife who
As
cut off their
see
tails
how
with
they
a
run.
carving knife. Did you
They
ever
all ran
see
after
such a
the
thing in
farmer's
your
wife
life?
who
As
cut off their tails with a
how
carving knife. Did you ever see such a thing in your life? As 3 they all ran after the farmer's wife who cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a thing in your life? As
cut off
3
their
they
tails with a
all
carving
ran
knife.
after
Did
the
you ever
farmer's
see
wife
such a
who
thing
cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a thing in your life? As 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice.
My Church of England was a Catholic one, shorn of priest cults, saints, intercessions, signs, pilgrimages, and with an English Bible. My gift. The people eating the word out of my hand. She read it every day like it was hers. Master Cromwell used it as a rod for the church's back, stripped the churches of idols, sacraments, ceremonies, emphasised faith and sermons, and got close to altar smashing. If not the Lutheran extremes of justification by faith alone and denying Christ's presence in the Eucharist. Oh, that cunning old Puritan. He served Protestantism, not me. And that's why I let the Catholic old guard have him in the end. Did him for heresy as well as treason. Well, he dissolved the monasteries by then anyway. I plundered 560 monastic institutions of stone, gold, lead, plate, and benefices, and bought myself a new political nation. No family benefiting from church loot is going back to Rome. The North rose up in rebellion, the pilgrimage of grace. I crushed them with martial law, public hangings, and broken promises. In 3 years, I broke centuries of church power forever. 2/5 of the country passing to the crown. The England you know was born. Which is more than you can say for the son that Berlin miscarried in our 3rd and last year of marriage, or the prenuptial nothing Elizabeth. She bore in the first. God was damning my second marriage. So I let the Seymour faction destroy her. Love had nothing to do with it. I mean, blame them for cutting off the pretty head of Boleyns before it turned on them. I'd already divorced her for marrying within prohibited degrees, not for adultery. I didn't need to kill her.
How quickly it changes. God blessed Jane Seymour with a son and killed her with Tudor surgery 12 days later. 4 short months ago, Henry and I wore yellow to celebrate Catherine's death, and he stroked my pregnant belly. And waking beside him the next day, the terrible truth dawned. With Catherine gone, he no longer needed me. Then my last best hope miscarried. When he came to me at Easter, he was already gone. At the May jousts, as I queened it for the 3rd and last time, 6 gentlemen and pages were arrested for plots against the king and carnal knowledge of me, including you, Tom, esquire of the body and master of mine long before Henry knew it. They will let you go after watching me die. You have Cromwell as your pillar. They racked confessions from the others. Yesterday on the scaffold, my brother Rochford, also accused of being my lover, said, "From my mishap, learn not to set your thoughts upon the vanities of the world, and least of all upon the flatteries of the court. The higher we rise, the harder we fall." Keep your head down, Tom, lest you lose it.
Who list his wealth and ease retain, himself let him unknown contain. Push not too fast in at that gate, where the return stands by disdain for sure. Circa regna tonat. The high mountain is blasted oft, the low valley is mild and soft. Fortune with health stands at debate, the fall is grievous from aloft. And sure, circa regna tonat. These bloody days have broken my heart. My lust, my youth, did then depart, and blind desire of estate, who hastes to rise seeks to revert. In truth, circa regna tonat. The bell tower showed me such a sight that in my head sticks day and night. There did I learn out of a great that for all favour, glory and might, that yet circa regna tonat. By proof I say, there did I learn, wit hath no defence to earn, of innocency to plead. O prate! Bear low therefore, give God the stern, for sure, circa regna tonat.
All 6 of my lovers died confessing their sins, though not the sin they were executed for. Here today, dead tomorrow, I swore on the sacrament that I am pure. Shall I die without justice, I asked, and the lieutenant said, the poorest suggests the king hath justice, and I laughed. A dying old lady of the bedchamber, whom I never meant to offend, Lady Wingfield, called me a whore on her deathbed. She told our young love story, Tom, as if it were happening now. Blame the Duke of Suffolk, my sworn enemy, for your arrest. The Wingfield family are his clients. I am 29, too young to die, guilty of nothing but youth. I indulged pastime in the Queen's chamber, giggled at tales of the King's impotence. Henry said I was unfaithful with 100 men, and this last 6 no worse than the rest. Truer than he meant.
What vaileth truth, or by it to take pain? To strive in steadfastness for to attain, to be just, true, and free from doubleness, when all alike, where ruleth craftiness, rewarded is both false and plain. Soonest he speedeth who most can feign. True meaning heart is had in disdain. Against deceit and doubleness, what vaileth truth? Why would Henry arrest 6 adulterers to destroy Anne when one would do? That was the Seymours, annihilating the competition. Jane Seymour, by refusing him her lips, had his, her faction his ear. The court flew from Anne's weakness. She refused to smile on Henry's little affairs. Jane showed gentleness in this. Anne, cursedness, like Catherine. Bad move. They say Henry never spared a man his wrath or a woman his lust. That is the hand that pulled the strings of the English Reformation.
But I know his hand. It lures, ignores, manipulates, leads, abandons. It's his other hand you've got to watch, the one stroking a pregnant belly. The world he imagined made real, plots everywhere, the strong to his side or his bed, the weak to the scaffold. The only defence is to counterattack first, like Thomas Cromwell. We Boleyns were too slow. I watched my brother hanged, drawn and quartered, spilling the guts he'd shown before. This morning I will be beheaded or burned at the king's pleasure. All the pleasure I once gave Henry's body has won me this mercy, a blade instead of the flames. The king never had my heart, he says, and he will have my clever head on its stiff Protestant neck for it, while Norfolk, my accuser, blooms like a rose in June. All the offices, grants and honours in the world vouchsafed by that one fail-safe, royal favour. Tom, you had my fickle heart once and kissed my neck like you meant it, praising its yielding softness. Pray for that softness now.
Shining hour, hunted hind harried in the gloom, and passing fair was the fading flower. Fa la 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 la, you stalked me softly, who later flew. Hunted hind harried in the gloom, and kiss me bold, wild and free and new. Fa la 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 la, with lips of young, sweet and dangerous rose. Hunted hind harried in the gloom, that like the blood red of summer blows. Fa la 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 la.
So wild to hold, though I seem so tame, hunted hind harried in the gloom. I lost my heart when I won the game.
Fa la 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 la.
A Tudor rose under May Queen's throne, hunted hind harried in the gloom. I plucked them both, now both are gone. Fa la 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 la. I lost my soul for a golden band. Hunted hind harried in the gloom that bows the neck as it forced the hand. Fa la 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 la. I lost my head for a peerless hour. Hunted hind harried in the gloom, and my true Thomas in the tower. Fa la 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 la. Six headless horses to lead her home. Hunted hind harried in the gloom. A headless coachman, a hollow crown. Fa la 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 la.